Hey houseplant friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you about plants that used to be really expensive but are actually really cheap in comparison now. Please note when I say cheap by comparison. We're going to take a look at 10 plants that used to be so out of pocket, but now maybe are only a quarter or half of your pocket. Before we get into today's video, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. Maybe you've been binge watching my videos and you just forgot to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the community. I also have YouTube memberships, which you can check out at the link in the description. But I know you're dying to hear my fancy little list, so let's just get to it. Okay, so the first plant on my list is actually going to be the Marx Fantasy. I know what you're thinking, actually this plant is still expensive. This plant used to go for $200 or $300, sometimes more, when I first joined the community 2 years ago. Remember, we're going back here, okay? Also, most of the plants on this list are considered rare, but there are a couple that are. The Marx Fantasy right now is retailing anywhere for between $20 to $40, maybe $50 or $60 if you're getting a larger plant. But this plant is not selling for a lot of money anymore, which is so exciting because it is one of my favorite plants, like ever. The Marx Fantasy used to be really expensive because it was one of those philodendron that was just so out of reach. It was glossy and silver, and I think 2 years ago there was a huge obsession with silver plants especially, but like right now I really don't see that obsession anymore, and there's a lot more newer philodendron that are coming onto the market right now, so Marx Fantasy is just not selling for as much anymore, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Next plant on this list is, drumroll please, the Monstera Obliqua. The Monstera Obliqua right now is going for an eighth of what it used to go for just a year ago, honestly. This plant, I mean, I don't even need to tell you guys, this was $2,000, $3,000 plant, now going for anywhere between $250 like we saw yesterday. Well, I guess $350 like we saw yesterday. And then up to about $600, maybe $700. There are, of course, people who are still listing them for the old prices, but they're not selling. The only plants that are selling right now are the ones that are going for pretty darn cheap, which is so cool. We're bringing down the plant prices, you guys. I thought for sure plant prices would keep just like going up and up and up and up for the next couple of years, but we're already seeing so many of these plant prices come down. Obviously, there are some plant prices that are going up, but these are really exciting plants that are like becoming cheaper again. And I think that that's worth celebrating. It's like a tiny win, you know what I mean? There was actually a whole lot of drama involving this plant price coming down. You can watch this video right here if you'd like to check it out. Basically, Obliqua seller decided that they were no longer gonna sell and that they were gonna try to convince everyone around them to no longer sell as well because the price was being devalued too much. TLDR, that person got destroyed online. Everyone's excited that plant prices are coming down, especially the Monstera Obliqua. The whole point of these like spreading these plants around, honestly, is to keep them alive. These are plants that are not very often seen in the wild anymore, most aeroids, mostly because of all the deforestation that's happening. So many species have probably gone extinct that we'll never even know about, but the fact that so many people now own Obliqua, that it's becoming relatively just now uncommon in collection and instead of like really rare, that is a huge win. Like, that's huge. The next plant we're gonna talk about is the Philodendron birken. When this plant strutted onto the scene sometime last year, I think it was like last spring, it was so expensive. I'm talking like $100, $200 because of the white streaks on the plant. I never really liked the Philodendron birken. Never really thought it was that cool. I did own one at one point, but I got over it very fast. Anyways, this plant's now being sold for 10 bucks at Trader Joe's and Home Depot and grocery stores, so see ya, birken. The next plant I want to talk about is the Swami Ferum. This is more of a low profile plant, I think, in my opinion. When I first got into collecting houseplants, this was a $100 to $300 plant that now you honestly can't even sell for more than 60 bucks. They're just not selling. So I think that enough people already have them that they're just not really wanting more, or people just are fed up with these big prices and they're only buying things that are relatively inexpensive. Swami Ferum is another plant that's prices have gone way down. A very notable mention here, the next plant, is the Philodendron Pink Princess. This is one I was not expecting. For once, it seems like the supply has actually met the demand because the prices are plateauing and falling a little bit, which is so freaking cool. Just filmed the other day a video about online houseplant shopping, and we took a look at a bunch of different prices on the internet of different types of plants. And The pink princess is a plant that it's hardly on Etsy being sold for over $200 anymore. We're seeing more $85 to $145 range, which is huge. When I joined the community, again, I sound like when I was your age, when I joined the community, this plant was a $500 plant. So it is pretty cool to see it being sold for even less than $100. Botanicas themselves has a couple listing for $66 and $85. Which we love Botanicas. And speaking of Botanicas, the next plant I have on my list is the Darth Vadariana. When Botanicas burst onto the scene a couple years ago, when I first started making videos about them, back when they only had less than 2,000 sales. Now they have 24,000. Oh, how time flies. They were selling some Darth Vadarianas that were expensive, and that's because the price of the plant was expensive at the time. Botanicas, what they did, and I really feel like I can credit Botanicas for this one. I hope I'm not like offending anyone by doing that. Botanicas literally took their Darths, propagated the crap out of them for the last 2 years, and now they're able to sell them for $25 online because there's so many of them, and they don't need to sell plants for more expensive. Botanicas' whole mission is to take these very hard out of reach plants that people are poaching, stealing from the wild, and to make them so accessible that you won't even think about stealing them. That's literally their mission statement. Well, part of it. It's not that uncommon anymore. You can literally go onto Botanicas right now and buy Darth Vadariana if that's what you want to do. And I think that the normal price is about $50 to $60, and then they have it on sale price for $25 or $30 or something. But they always come in such good shape. I have 2 Darth Vadarianas from Botanicas. One of them is doing bad because of a slug situation, but the other one is doing really good. So get your Darth Vadarianas from Botanicas. And also, speaking of Botanicas, we also have the Begonia Gillau. This was another plant that was so expensive before Botanicas made a crap ton of it. And by crap ton, I mean they have like probably over 20 different bins in their warehouse. If you didn't know, they grow all their plants in bins. Check out my Botanicas playlist if you want to see what they're doing. Over 20 bins just full of Julau. Literally a crap ton, like so many Julau. And because they've been able to make so many of it, they honestly have so much supply. Price has gone down a lot. And these are 2 plants that were like $200, $300 begonias. Way back in the day, I paid to do an import with my friend, and it was $75 per Darth Vadariana from an import. Imports are usually cheaper. So like all 3 of those didn't make it, obviously, but the ones from Botanicas are from the United States, and they're acclimated and they're great. So Darths and your Jalaus from Botanicas, and also everything else from Botanicas. The next plant we're gonna talk about, which is the 8th plant on this list, is the Paelia Pepperonioides. Again, when I burst onto the plant scene 2.5 years ago, this plant was so expensive. It was just starting to come down in price when I got into it, but this was like a $30 or $40 plant. And again, for a plant that's already more of like a commonplace plant, that's already pretty like expensive. That was after the price had already come down even more. Apparently, there was this whole Paelia Pepperonioides surge like a couple of years before I showed up, and you could not get this plant. This plant was selling for so much money, not like crazy amounts of money, but a lot of money. Like, this is a plant now you can get for $5 at your grocery store. That was not what it used to be like. So for all the plant parents that are new and joining the world and they're like, why would that plant be expensive? Because no one could get it. And that's what makes plants rare and expensive. If you can't get something, if it's not in production, if no one's really making it. So anyways, Paelia Pepperonioides used to be such a diva plant. Now you can get it everywhere. The last plant on this list is the Anthurium Claridervium. This plant was so expensive. Like, oh my gosh, this was like a $200, $300 plant. People were selling the crap out of this. And I don't know if it started being tissue cultured or if a farm just started making them somewhere, selling them like crazy. But the price on this plant, when I tell you, it dropped in like within a week. It was so bizarre. It was like $200, $300 plant for like a large one. And then out of nowhere, out of thin air, $30, $40. $85. It was all over the place. People didn't know what to do with themselves. Anthurium Clarinervium was weird. That was a weird one because it was such a highly sought after Anthurium because it's so easy to take care of, but it's also velvet. And now it's like a starter Anthurium. It's like the Anthurium you get if you don't know about Anthurium yet and you wanna learn about it.
So I don't know how I forgot to mention this, but I completely left out what was supposed to be the second plant on this list, which is Riftifora Tetrosperma. This plant was extremely expensive. It would go for $80 to $150, at least 2 years ago when I first got into the community. You couldn't buy it at your grocery store. You couldn't find it in your stores. It was extremely hard to find, and it was known as Monstera minima. And it was huge. It was a massive, massive plant. And now you can get it at your grocery store for $5 again. It's a very similar story to the Paelia Pepperonioides in birken. So yeah, that's the Riftifora Tetrosperma. So sorry I completely forgot to mention it, but yes.
But anyways, those are 10 plants that used to be pretty expensive that now aren't as expensive. I would say that I think the Sancti is also on this list, but that plant is still too expensive for me to even consider putting it on this list. Like their seedlings going for $5,000 right now. That's like not as much as you'd think it would go for. So anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. Please make sure you hit like, subscribe, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Follow me on Instagram at PlantMeAshley as well. Also, I have a membership program which you can join for only $5 a month. There are more tiers that go up from there depending on what benefits you want. But for the $5 tier, you really get so much out of the membership. It is so worth it. Come hang out with us, and hopefully I will see you in the Discord. They're starting to do a lot of yard work outside, so I am gonna go. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the extra support to the planted cauliflower, all the green places, and botanicas. And I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section. Goodbye.